Fellow Ghanaians, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us here on Upfront on the Joy News channel. Now, you can say this is the first time we've had a major reshuffle in 7 years since Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo became president of the Republic of Ghana, and you wouldn't be wrong. After all, since he assumed office on the 7th of January 2017, this is the first time you've had more than 10 persons losing their places as ministers. For many of you, you say, it's too little, too late in the day. After all, he has only 11 months to govern as president of the Republic. But there are those who say, that's a bold decision by the president. He's done well, after all, his party. And you've heard the NPP saying, the president has done well, because for the NPP, they asked the president to reshuffle. That wasn't the first time they said it. I mean, once the current General Secretary assumed office, he had talked about the need for a reshuffle. Then he talked about it again in December, at the time the Vice President said, you have a big mouth because you're able to say all these things. Well, that was in December. It finally happened in February, on the 14th of February. Valentine's Day. I'm sure it's a day, for many of you, you would easily remember as the day President Akufo-Addo reshuffled his government. But this is the question on the minds of many of you. Why did he have to wait this late? Even though many of you expected Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to go, you ask the question, if he knew he was going to get Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta out, why did he not do so in 2022 when members of parliament from his own political party asked him to do so? Well, they say better late than never, but for many of you, this is too late. And then you've asked the question, why is it that everybody who lost in the primaries, or any minister who decided not to contest again, or most of the ministers who said they were not going to contest again, have had to be shown the exit as ministers? Dan Kweku-Botwe, he's gone. You've seen Frida Prempeh, she lost, she's gone. You've seen Dr. Kweku Efriye, he says, I don't want to be a member of parliament again, shown the exit. And others, shown the exit. The question also that you've asked, is this just a tool or a strategy for the 2024 general elections? Is this President Akufo-Addo's way of saying, we want to break the 8 at all costs, and we will do everything possible to ensure that we break the 8? This is Upfront on the Joy News channel. My name is Winston Amoah. When we return after these messages, I'll introduce my guest, and then we'll start discussions, finding out what their thoughts are generally on the reshuffle, and then get into the focus for today, whether this is Nana Akufo-Addo and the NPP's strategy towards election 2024. We'll be right back. Right, so welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us. And this evening we're joined by a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Asa Asante, and we're also a founding president of Humani Africa, Franklin Cudjoe, joining us to get into the conversation. Gentlemen, good evening, and thank you very much for joining me tonight on Upfront.
Good evening, Winston.
Great. Let me start off with you, Dr. Asa Asante, and find out from you what you first of all make of this reshuffle. Late in the day, or you think spot on the president had to do this? Hello, Dr. Asa Asante. Dr. Asa Asante, I'm asking you whether you think the president was spot on.
Yes.
Let's listen to you. Go ahead.
Winston.
I think there's a problem with your connection. Stay with me. Let me get to Franklin Cudjoe. Mr. Cudjoe, let me hear from you. You think the president was spot on this, or you think it's too little in the day, late in the day?
Well, some may say that we are grateful for small mercies, but unfortunately, again, it's like you said, it's too little, too late, because I do not see the real value to the economy, basically, and I deal in those realms. I mean, I ask myself, what value is this late change really going to add to the economy, or even the governance in total? I'm not too sure we have a good answer to that particular question. And you see, I say that because if you look at the number, I mean, all these appointments have been made. Six out of nine of the ministerial nominees are new, and almost all the deputy ministerial nominees themselves are also new. What it means is that these persons are going to spend, probably after February, when hopefully the vetting would have been done, spend them mid-March or late March up until about August to settle in their jobs first, and then maybe begin to do something monumental or something worthy. Unfortunately, 4 or 5 months is not enough in order to do anything significant, which essentially means that whatever they're coming to do is already scripted already. I mean, budgets have been approved, plans that have been laid already. So essentially, really not much would happen. I mean, so there's a reason why I think that it's just too little, too late. I would have thought that the other example of what a reshuffle should be should have been what the president should have done, which is realignment, probably merging a few ministries, and indeed actually reducing the size of government. I mean, he kept the number 86, which is still confounding, really. And so, not a proper reshuffle here. It's just a change of, again, as you said, some members of parliament who had apparently lost their positions, but they are ministers. Or maybe they were just tired, as Justin Kodia wanted to tell us the last time, actually told us that some of these MPs, some of the ministers are actually tired, and so they ought to be retired. If it is the case that we really wanted to have, we just wanted to retire old ministers because they are tired, I don't think we are going to attain the whatever vigor, or we are going to see whatever vigor whatever vigor we expect from these new ministers would never really come to fruition, because I don't think it's going to add to the economy at all.
I mean, talking about, the time and the impact on the economy, let's look at something. So these are persons, if you look at some of the ministers, for instance, yes, they're coming in, they're new, but they may also not be so new to the happenings of government. After all, you admit that this is a period where the budget has already been approved. So maybe they are coming in to actually change the how these programs and policies will be implemented. What's wrong with that?
Oh, I'm not too sure. Even the implementation plans would have actually been approved already, unless, of course, you're saying that if let's say the Ministry of Health is supposed to erect Agenda 111 or more or less push the Agenda 111 project in certain, push it, it may decide that for electoral votes purposes, they will rather focus on maybe the strongholds rather than focus on places they may not get votes. Maybe that type of strategy may be what may be in the minds of certain persons, but how beneficial is that to the economy, to the Ghanaian, or to the average Ghanaian? I don't see implementation. Should I say the process of implementation significantly departing from what plans have been laid already. If the Agenda 111 is supposed to happen in 10 districts, well, it ought to happen in 10 districts because monies have been voted already. Unless, of course, you're suggesting that these persons will come in and by sleight of hand decide that they will rather, they will rather serve certain persons rather than certain districts rather than other districts. I do not really see the advantage here at all. But of course, some people have also suggested, in the case of Koboy and the Interior Minister nominee, that this is to placate the gun votes. I'm not too sure. I've not made those publications.
We'll get to that part shortly. Let me just hear from Dr. Asante, because now that you introduced that point, it means we're going into, whether it's a strategy towards the 2024 elections. We'll get to that. Let me just get Dr. Asante, his general views about this, and then we'll get into all of it. I'm told he's joined us on phone now. Dr. Asante, what's your take on the reshuffle in general before we get into whether it's a strategy towards the 2024 elections?
Hello.
Yes, Doc.
Hello. Winston.
Yes, Dr. Asah-Asante.
Hello, Winston.
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. Can you pose your question again? I'm sorry.
I am asking that what do you make of your general impressions about the reshuffle? You think that it's the right thing to do at this time, or maybe the president could have just ended his term without this reshuffle?
Oh, the time we needed the reshuffle most, it didn't come on. It's just a waste of everybody's time. The president decided to do that just for maybe a few reasons. One of the reasons would be that he wants to retire certain people so that push them into the campaign mode of Alhaji Bawumia. Take for instance, if you look at Damboche, is somebody you cannot dispense of his service relative to election campaign. So I believe that definitely he will feature strongly in the campaign there. Apart from that, he wanted also to bring in certain deputies who he think that they have lived up their game, and for that matter, they occupy a position in the substantive ministry and all that. So that you can talk about the former deputy minister for information, who has now moved on to what minister for information, and then the finance deputy who is also coming in here. That said, it gives you an idea that there are some places they believe that yes, they could, put people there, move them from one ministry to another. So you see Kwadwo Nkrumah moved into the position of Works and Housing, whilst that minister himself is also Asenso Boache is also out there to another ministry. That type of musical chair and all that. But you ask yourself, to what end? Is it the case that those they are bringing in are going to what? Make significant change to the status quo?
Tell me, to what end? Tell me, are they going to bring significant change?
Oh, nothing, because the status quo remains, except that they are doing that for some strategic reasons, or you want to also respond to some public opinion concerns that, yes, the president, we asked for a change or reshuffle, and is giving to us. You recall, I think yesterday or so, on your network, you interview the general secretary of the New Patriotic Party and said they are glad that the president has listened to the people, and so was said by Nana Boachi too, and all that. All these things do not really matter in terms of me on even the general political system, and then the matters that will arise from here onwards. So it is just cosmetic, apart from a few strategic areas that we can talk about.
What are those strategic areas that we can talk about? Dr. Asah-Asante.
The strategic area which I have talked to you about is that, yes, there are some you want to retire them from active politics and bring them to the campaign of Dr. Bawumia and Damboche Santor in this regard. You watch, you coming strongly into that area, all right? If you push him as a minister, then he has to, wear two hats as a minister, and then been very important in a campaign where he will receive criticism. So push him aside, let him wait. When the campaign starts, he's in there. Okay. So that is one.
So that's one. Which what's the other?
Of course, you want to also. The other is that you want to also bring in some new energies into the system, brings to occupy certain key positions, and that they can also manage the ministry. Take, for instance, the Deputy Minister for Information. Take, for instance, my own classmate and good friend, Ejapa Mesa, who has now gravitated, moved to another ministry, substantive position, and all that. Of course, you want to also give way to other young people to come in as deputy ministers and all that. These are part of the rationale behind, reshuffle in every democratic enterprise. So that is some of the consideration in terms of what strategy.
But talking about strategy and talking about new energy. So yes, you talk about giving new energy, bringing in new energy. Is that not the way to go? How come you say as much ado about nothing? How come you say this is not going to change anything? He's bringing in new energy, isn't it?
Yeah, but the new energy on paper, this is what we see. This is what I can say. But in real substance, is that the case? Will it change anything? Yeah, you are bringing at what time? At the 11th hour? What is it that they can, for a certain political end, let people know that, oh, look, now they are bringing young people. Young people were part and parcel of the government at the end of the day and all that. This has some political propaganda effect. The real substance of it, I'm afraid, we can be proud of that.
Great. So let's get to the second leg of the conversation. And Franklin, you started by talking about your belief that some have actually suggested this could just be a way of, the fact that you have Okoboy coming in and you have, Henry Korte moving to Interior as an attempt to please the Gadangme. Tell me more about that and why you think that could be the case.
To be frank with you, it was a comment I saw where one of our followers actually made that comment on Imani War. I'm not too sure I like to give so much credence to it because, you see, the president has not even given us any good reasons. While I'm here, he's not even supposed to give us reasons as to why he nominates or appoints people. And so let's not put too much weight on that. But whatever it is, Okoboy is in his own right a very excellent pair of hands and head. And I think he's done tremendously well in that particular field. So maybe yes. I guess the point, and of course the Interior Minister, I guess the point ought to be emphasized really that we are not even looking at all these so-called electoral fortunes, whether somebody's going to build a war chest, and so they are being given opportunity, or some young people are coming to invigorate, put some figure into. Basically, at the end of the day, what exactly is the value? I ask myself, what exactly is the value addition to Ghana as a result of this appointment? I would have thought it probably better to have left the people who were chucked out really, because most of them are not even going to run the next elections anyway. They're not going to repeat, they're not going to reseat, they're not going to contest elections. So they probably will have time and then focus and deliver the rest of the mandate. Unlike what we have right now. Even though Okoboy is likely to contest, I'm sure he's contesting.
Well, right? He's contesting. He's won his primary. Good,
he did. Now, Okoboy, and as I said, over 80% of, probably 90% of all those persons that have been appointed are actually looking to contest the seats.
Yes.
And so the point is whether they are going to build a wall. I like to do vested interest analysis, but probably not on this one. So I can't get into the realms of whether they are going to make money, going to get some.
Let me ask you a very straightforward question. Yeah, frankly, a very straightforward question. So if, for instance, and I'm going to mention a few names, Dan Botry has decided he doesn't want to go back to Parliament. Kwesi Amoah, he says he won't go back to Parliament. Then you have, Kwekwe Friye, he says he's not going to go back to Parliament. Frida Prempeh has lost her re-election bid, at least she's not going to go to Parliament on the ticket of the NPP. And others, and all of these persons have been moved or have been removed. So even if you go to the OT region, for instance, somebody like Makubu, he contested and lost. And he is being removed. Can't you, based on this, reasonably infer that for anybody who is not going to play a role in the next election, it's time to step aside for those who are contesting to come in?
So that's not a good use of human resource. I mean, if you're in the dying moments of an administration, the sensible thing to do is to ensure that the remainder of that value or the remainder of those functions must be must be thoroughly and efficiently delivered, rather than put new persons who are not going to wait for 4 or 5 months to settle in the role. What value would you have attained? It's not as if in the event that the party even wins the next election, it's not as if it's guaranteed that this person should be given the same positions anyway. So I don't think that logic actually holds. That's what I'm suggesting to you, that I thought that maybe because of the challenge of not having any, we are not going to be beneficial. We are not going to have any beneficial results from this appointment. It was probably better to have left those old guards there, because for them, they are leaving anyway, right? So I unfortunately, I'm not too sure about that particular analogy, not at all. And as I maintain, at the end of the day, if you ask yourself, what exactly are we doing? What exactly are we doing? I mean, to think that 86 ministers have still been maintained, I don't think we went. In fact, even for females, there's been a reduction in one females when we wanted to look at the number of females in this parliament. So I'm not entirely enthused about this particular so-called reshuffle at all. And I'm sure that if we wanted to add that of the finance minister, I'm sure we'll come to that as well.
Yes.
It makes it rather interesting, and I thought that is another angle we should probably be looking at. But having said that, Ejapa Mensah, for instance, was on another sister network this morning, and I think his only reason for probably being given the role of made a tourism minister is because I think the president wanted to have a regional balance. How can that be a sensible solution and reason for giving a ministerial appointment, right? It has nothing to do with, I'm not saying, I mean, Ejapa Mensah is a good friend, he's a good head, he's an excellent lawyer, he speaks well. He probably has done a lot more at the energy ministry, but to be given this new role and he telling us basically that he thinks that in the light of regional balance, even that is not factual, right? And so he's been made a minister. I don't think those reasons are tenuous at all. So we'll probably wait for the president, if indeed he in his first term, when he was given he was actually given the rules, or actually appointing, when he was given I've forgotten what it was, the ceremony.
He actually organized presses and indicated why he was appointing ministers.
This person was being appointed. But I don't think he probably cared too much about this particular one. I think he's just pandering to the fact that everybody wanted a reshuffle. And then, so let's get the reshuffle. I'm surprised Justin and Nanabi are saying that this is the reshuffle they wanted. I don't think they understand what they're talking about. I mean, it's as if it's just changing human beings. Well, maybe yes, but if it is the value that we all require, we haven't seen it.
And what is that value that you would have, wanted?
Well, I would have wanted a reduction in the number of ministers and some realignment. I would have probably been happy to hear that the railway ministry is gone forever, and probably either subsumed under a desk in the Ministry of Transport, or transport and whatever roads lumped together and then created in that regard. I don't think dicing up ministries and putting people around, sharing them as if they are toughies, actually does any good for a developing country that wants to develop. I don't see the point at all. It is important, even lands, forestry, what's it called, mines, and there's another one I've forgotten right now. We could have done those, even environment, science and technology. We could merge these ministries and then create some efficiency. So the value I'd wanted to see was a reduction in the number of ministers, probably to about 70, so that he allows Bawumia, who may then have to justify why he wants to do 50, really.
Let me bring in Dr. Asa Asante and get his take on this. So Dr. Asa Asante, here you are, you see the situation. You've seen that all the ministers who decided, for those who decided not to go back to Parliament, they're out. For a lot of those who lost their seats, they're also out, for instance. Does that in any way tell you that the president is, quote unquote, punishing those who lost and those who decided not to go back by bringing in persons who can then, prosecute the 2024 agenda?
Oh, strictly speaking, if you look at that and you want to make sense of this, all that you can say is that, look, because of the hybrid nature that we have, you want to have more, encourage people so that they campaign well and win their seat and go to parliament, then you get majority and they'll help you to do business of parliament. But that strategy, if it is one that we can talk about, will it also materialize? Because the fact that you have kicked the old guards out and then you are maintaining or bringing in people who have won the primaries, is it the case that they are going to win the election at the end of the day? That question remains $1 million question. So you can see through it clearly. It's just one of the things that he did, except that some old guys have to go. Unfortunately, those who step out to contest have suffered this fate and all that. You are not able to get the head and tail of it. A little inferences you can make, and then you move on. But really, if you want to have reshuffle, then it must be done and done very well at the appropriate time, so that you reap. If that is the case, then obviously it comes to what costs 90. It's not going to yield anything, and it's just going to be a waste of everybody's time. But for the party people, they cannot criticize this. They only jump to it and rationalize it and let you know that it's a good thing. But the reality will dawn on them when we begin to campaign, when we begin to look at those ministries, whether they have been meaningful progress after they step into the shoes of the old guys and all that. That reality will dawn on them, and that will sink some of them the more when they come face to face with the electorate and they are asked to work.
Now, Dr. Asah-Asante, let me just ask you.
Accounts for the few period that they've been in office. That is where.
Yeah, but let's look at this closely. In 2021, when the president was actually appointing ministers for a second term, you saw a trend. Those who contested and lost the elections didn't come back. So, for instance, Okoboy, who was then Deputy Health Minister, lost, he didn't come back. Titus Glover, who was Deputy Transport Minister, lost, he didn't come back. Don't you just get that trend that in Akufo-Addo's government, if you go contesting elections and you lose, you're going out for the person who won to come in? And is that not more of an indication of a president who thinks about elections more than anything else?
Oh, as for president thinking nothing but election is a fact. And it's not only this president, all the political heads. And that is why you recall some years ago, the late Winston Amoah said that the NDC was nothing but electoral machinery and all that. It can be said for NPP as well, because when you look at the real issue of governance, one would have expected that they would spend much time to deliver on their promises and the rest of them. But as soon as they win power, the next major thing they are thinking about is how to maintain power and what are the strategies, what are the things they want to put in place and all that. They will not say it openly for you to know, but by their actions, by their deeds, you realize that it is something that they put premium on. That is very unfortunate, because people vote you into office with a hope that you will come and deliver certain promises for them. You will come and provide what is expected of you and the rest of them. But if you begin to check this type of responsibility and you want to do otherwise, then I'm afraid you are not serving the cause of the people. And that is why we always have democratic deficit and the rest of them.
Great. So now let's look at Ken Ofori-Atta. I mean, if there's one person that everybody wanted out, or most people wanted out, it's Ken Ofori-Atta. Finally, he's gone out. Franklin Cudjoe, his replacement, good decision?
Well, I think obviously pandering to the public expectations and whims, maybe it was a good decision, because clearly speaking, a lot has gone on, and I think the finance minister himself must be tired of attracting a lot of opprobrium. And so it's a good decision. What is not entirely the case is that he's still lurking around. And I'm sure that you saw that newsreel on Masasi Radio suggesting that he's now going to be a senior presidential advisor on the economy, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, really. At least he can lend his experience to whoever is occupying the seat right now. But then he's been given another role, which is to be the special envoy of the president on international investments and capital markets. Now, those two are heavy, and they are telling. They are telling to the extent that I basically say that as if it makes Ken much more powerful than the current finance minister, because what it means essentially is that big ticket transformation, or big ticket projects or deals that Ghana may be negotiating, he definitely have a say in it, or probably might even go ahead prospecting for them, and so you'd have a say as to how they actually deployed. And of course, the capital market for money to pay for them as well. Don't forget, he's cut his teeth through, private equity, managing people's money on Wall Street and all of that. And to think that this is a gentleman who wanted to float a 50 billion century bond on the capital markets, to now be given this sumptuous role of a special envoy, it's actually like an ambassador emeritus, really, if you like to put it in those terms, which essentially means he's going to be more like the grandmaster or the godfather when it comes to international finance, international investment, and indeed the decisions as to whether to go to the capital markets or not. Of course, what it also means is really that if this government ever attempts to go to the markets, which I don't obviously see happening in any moment from now, but at least he's going to have significant influence in resources we are going to mobilize internationally, whether we are raising money for this development bank, for instance, or just anything that has to do with international investment. Even GIPC would have been subsumed under this particular role anyway. So what it tells me clearly is that President has been clever in giving him a role that is much more bigger than the finance ministry. In fact, the finance ministry folks would just be pushing papers, and then he would have the last, not necessarily last, but would make the final decision. So that's the way I see it. Unless, of course, the presidency comes to tell us that, oh no, we only say that capital markets and economy because he'll be reading the Economist magazine or the BFT, and then if he finds anything useful there, he then tells the government. I don't think that is the role that means. I mean, that would have been really unsophisticated and a waste of everybody's time. This rule is a de facto rule when it comes to everything related to investments, the negotiations of it, the deals around it, and indeed, in this case, even how to approach a market to raise money. That's the way I understand it. It's plain and simple. And I don't think they'll contest it at all, because that's what it means.
But, would you fault the president? They wanted him out. He's not there as finance minister. He's only going to be the president's advisor.
Oh, no, not at all. Actually, I need to add this caveat. Not at all that he's been given a special role. Because in any case, if anybody feels in his or duty and is being given there's a lot of opportunity to learn from such persons, right? Even if we thought that the person has failed. So there's everything good about this appointment. What I'm just telling you, the way I see it, is that he's been given a much important role than even the finance ministry. So, and that is a good thing for him, because why would I be subjecting myself to so much opprobrium because I read the budget, because I take a decision that didn't go well? I said I won't go to the IMF and I had egg on my face. I said I won't do e-levy, and then I have egg on my face. How much can one man take? Let me rather come back, sit at the back and be the grandmaster. Those ones, whether we want to qualify it as a good thing or not, is another conversation. But you see, for me, I think that this role that has been given is much more powerful than even the vice president's role even if you want to contemplate what possibly could be done. And it's ambiguous. It's all over the place. And I'm sure we are at liberty to make those interrogations and make those analyses. So nobody is saying that it may not be a good thing for the president to still have him by his side, because like it or not, Ken is a good fundraiser, right? As privately, and indeed, some of the good things Ken have done in this country in terms of building scholarships. When I mean scholarships, not giving money to people to go to school, but I mean in terms of building critical minds, skills sets, people who is taking through a lot of the Aspen-related Global Institute work. Is that phenomenal? Unfortunately, I don't think the public square was where he should have been allowed to play at all, because I don't think he's understood that private managing of people's funds or money is quite different from public money. And I think he made categorical mistakes together the Bank of Ghana, and then they plunged this country into the biggest hole ever created. And I don't know how we're going to get out of it, unless, of course, we resurrect the cathedral, which has become another hole, which he superintended. I don't know. I mean, this is me just going off rails. But look, this gentleman has been given a very sumptuous role. And I can tell you that in my very mischievous nature, I can say that the Ministry of Finance people, especially the minister now, will be like a go-row ball.
Let me find out from Dr. Asah-Asante what he makes of this. You think that, the finance ministry still under Ken in a different role?
Oh, I have a different view. My view is that, like it or not, Ken has his own strengths as well as weaknesses. We have seen the weaknesses manifesting clearly in his position as a finance minister. But we know where he has a strength, investment issues and all that. So if the president finds that, look, this is a time for us to tap into your expertise and then bring something at the last minute to come and support the system, why not? That will not amount to the ministry being under the control of Mr. Ofori-Atta. No, I'm sure Mr. Amin Adams is his own man. You'll be able to, he has done incredibly well in the area of his field, and he's known for that. And so he will paddle his own canoe and then move on. What Ken role that he's playing now, there's every reason to believe that, yes, there's something that can be, obtained from him to support the system. And remember, at this point in time, every effort is critical. So yes, if the ministry is where he cannot perform, other places, if he can, why not? So I think that is where the president is looking at. And for me, there's nothing wrong at all.
But Dr. Asah-Asante, you remove a man as finance minister, a man whom even his own party members of parliament say he's failed, so should be removed. And then he becomes your senior advisor on the economy and your special envoy for international investment and the international capital market. Isn't that, a reward for failure?
Oh, no. But we have also, the president will continue to receive advice from Dr. Bawumia. What about that?
Are you suggesting that the vice president is failed?
There are a lot of, promises the government has not been able to deliver. And time and again, we have heard from the president that Dr. Bawumia has what it takes to be able to turn things around. And his contribution has been so immense and all that. In effect, he's telling us that a lot of good things that we are seeing in this government has come from Dr. Bawumia. So if you have people who can also support the effort of people like Dr. Bawumia and the rest of them, why not? Why not? The president will tap into those expertise.
If I can get you clearly,
yes. Are
you saying
it doesn't matter the criticism that people make about him? Remember, Dr. Bawumia continued to advise the party, the government, for instance, only that he tells you that, yes, he's a driver's mate, but he occupies that important role that, to the admiration of some top brass within the party, such as Mr. Safo Mafu and Co, praising him for the work that he's doing at the economic management body and the rest of them. So every idea, every experience, every knowledge that is worth tapping into, they will do that.
Are you suggesting, just by way of clarity, are you suggesting that if the president takes advice from Dr. Bawumia, then he might as well take advice from Ken, because there's no difference really?
No. All that I'm saying that, look, the Dr. Bawumia continued to give advice to the president against the backdrop that there are difficulties, there are promises that Dr. Bawumia and, for that matter, the government has made, and they remain unfulfilled, but they continue to advise the government. So if you push Ken to his new position and he's able to offer advice, you don't think the president would take more so when you are talking about Ken in the area of investment and all that? You and I know that that is his trump card. So if that is going to work and work perfectly, the president will tap into that. The fact that Mr. Ofurata is not at the ministry, are you saying that he has nothing under his sleeves to share with the government of the day? That I disagree, and I disagree vehemently. I know there are other areas that he has his expertise and that we can benefit from. That is in no doubt at all.
Franklin,
yes.
Dr. Asante disagrees. He thinks that, well, I mean, he has his expertise in that field and the nation stands to benefit a lot. What do you say to that?
Well, I think he's obviously entitled to that opinion. I look at it from the side of looking at the optics and looking at how Ken actually works, and I know what that means. And I'm just opposing that against what he had wanted to do for this country, raise monumental money and debts for this country. He wanted to float a $50 billion bond. I'm sure he still has ambitions for that. There's nothing wrong advising on the economy, because as Dr. Asa said, he basically says, clearly he has experience. And of course, people learn from experience, right? So he can advise. But I would never have added the one that had to do with international investment and capital markets. Those ones, the role is going to play, and no, in fact, if you do not even take care, they will be running counter to some of probably the programs or the ideals of the finance ministry or whatever it is clear that this particular role is not for the faint-hearted. It is for persons who really know what exactly they want to achieve. And I still maintain it's a huge role, right? International investment, and I mean, UOF is already doing that anyway. I mean, it's junketing and going all over the place. Unless, of course, we are saying that he's traveling around the world and it's not really yielding fruits. And so maybe we need some support in that regard, which may be superfluous, really. Or when it comes to capital markets, we are probably nurturing, we probably see, maybe he's probably found out how to basically what ticks our international partners, investment partners, capital market players, and then maybe he's found a way of enticing them with some good deals. I don't know. I don't want to be uncharitable, but clearly speaking, in my understanding, in my language, I think clearly being in charge of international investment, special envoy. You see, an envoy here is like an emissary, that goes around an advanced party to go and do all this type of nose around to see where international investment will come through and then decide how it is organized and packaged. Those are not mean roles at all. They are heavy roles, right? To think that we even have ambassadors who, by the way, should be doing some of this work. Ambassadors should not just be glorified messengers. They should have commercial wings that will be looking for prospecting, so that we don't even have a position like international investment envoy. What does that mean? Is he now the one? Because that's what it means. Go around, look for money support and all of that, which is a good thing. The finder's fee and all of those. I don't think I'll be doing that work because especially when I'm not being paid from the kitty for free. So this is a huge role, and let's not kid it with at all. Okay. Nothing to say about his competence in that regard. He definitely can do that work. The question is, being removed from the finance ministry and now being given a much superior role, how does that play? How does that come across to persons who think that he probably superintended the worst economy ever in this country? Mm-hmm. But we should be able to separate the two. Really. All I'm saying is that this is more like being promoted, and it's a big promotion, really.
You get the idea that the president is actually telling all of us that, okay, so you want Ken out, yes, he's going, but I still want him to be part of my government, and so I'm giving him this role where he becomes closer to me instead of just running a ministry.
Well, maybe that's what he should actually be, or maybe that's what he's actually told us right now, right? This appointment. That's essentially what it is. The other appointment is like someone on climate change, right? The environment minister, social level of climate change, which is another interesting bit. You see, I probably wouldn't think that's been necessary because in the lingo, in the current frame, in the current structure, in the global structure, financial structure right now, climate finance is an integral part of international financing, right? So if somebody is going to be an envoy or international investment or whatever you, maybe yes, climate should be taken. Climate finance really should also be part of those conversations. But whatever it is, the president clearly knows what it's about, and I think he needs Ken closer to him as an advisor in that regard. Maybe nothing wrong with that. Just that the point to be made is that those are much bigger roles and they are much bigger than the finance ministry. But the finance ministry, what really do you do? I mean, apart from assembling budgets and sharing money, what exactly do you do? It's not as if you, I don't know, apart from sharing money, we've not had finance ministers that are very, very bold and will tell sector ministries or sector ministers or even tell the government that, look, I don't think this one village, one dam thing is working well at all. They are just dug out all over the place. Why should we continue be funding that enterprise? But we don't see that. Rather, all these plans have been reordered again into something they call PCPEC, whatever that means. Something property, BBB. All of those things are wasteful. So I want to see finance ministers who can be bold and say, no, I'm not funding this. I don't think I'll fund this. We've never seen any of that. And it's worrying, really. So, hey, it is what it is, really. Whatever we are saying right now, I think there's some unison in the fact that these appointments are not just so late. They have zero value to our lives, our economy. And indeed, if it is even entertained at all, I've just given a few people some other roles, and then maybe they will also put it on CV that, oh, I was works and housing minister for 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, and all of those. One other point about the what's the name, the information minister being taken to
works and housing.
I don't think we discussed that. Works and housing, whatever it means. I think Fatima is she called Fatima, the lady.
Yes, Fatima Abubakar.
Yeah, Fatima is obviously an excellent lady. She does quite well. She speaks elegantly, and she's very careful what she say to persons or people who even come after her with so much anger. She's calm and collected, and I think she can do the work well. Some people suggest that Kojo probably was checked out or was changed because he probably is not communicating well. I don't know where all of that is coming from. But his current role, nothing will change there. What is he going to do at Health and Housing Ministry? Is he going to change this monies that have already been approved for the so-called rent allowance? I don't even understand who brought about that rent allowance thing. What is that? Instead of giving people the opportunity to give them some tax breaks or give them some support, giving rent allowance, and those things could be shortchanged or given to party people. He's not going to change that. he's not going to change the decisions that have been already approved by Asenso of even the budget when it comes to the infrastructure development. I don't think he's going to change that to ensure that some people get it faster. Or I don't think it's going to happen within these few months. So good people, but unfortunately, it's just these are just musical chairs, really.
Okay, now let me bring in Dr. Asah Asante as we begin to wrap up, because you had talked earlier about the president taking the advantage to probably downsize, reduce the number of ministers. Some have said, Dr. Asah Asante, that if Dr. Bawumia is promising to govern with 50 ministers, the last thing Akufo-Addo would want to do would be to reduce ministers and make it difficult for Dr. Bawumia. Do you agree it wasn't necessary for him to reduce numbers?
The reality has dawned on Dr. Bawumia. All the noise that people have made about the fact that you started with 126 ministers. And when people talk about this, you said, just wait for results. And up to date, we have not seen any results from that direction. It tells you that, look, the figures that you have do not sit well. And it doesn't ensure any prudence in the way we manage state resources. Right? So the real thing to do is what? Bring it down. I even would have loved him to, reduce the number from 50 to 19. It's doable.
19 ministers?
Yes, I can explain.
Including regional ministers?
19. The Constitution says that you need 16 regional ministers, isn't it?
Yes.
Then get the 16 out of the 19. That each of the ministers will double as what? A minister for one of the ministries, and then he doubles as regional minister. Two portfolios in the hands of one person, no deputy. And then you allow the technocrat to support that person. The three ministries, the big ones, given to individuals to handle without having the regional portfolios added to it. So you are good to go. 16 regional ministers, 3 will be what? The big ministries. Because if you look at governance, really, you are talking about what? Cabinet, where it's made up of senior-most ministers, few ministers, senior-most ministers, who make all the important decisions. Any other group who are nothing but the round boys of the system. So you just put them to satisfy certain political advantage. If you are really serious about what you're talking about, then it's cabinet. So I will propose 19, not 50.
I see. And so you also agree that the president should have reduced the number of ministers? Dr. Asah Asante.
As for the president, I am not in denial that, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
As
hear
for
you.
the president, there is no doubt that he will not reduce the size. Hello?
Yes, we are listening to you.
Hello, Winston.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I said, as for the president, yes, I have no doubt in my mind that he will not reduce the size of government. He will not do that. Because if you would, you would have done that a long time. There have been a lot of course. All the fine argument we have heard about the need to downsize. We still have what? 86. And it is quite about it. So, but I was surprised that what is it that he
your connection is getting bad, Dr. Asante. Your connection is getting bad, but unfortunately also, that's all time would allow us. Thank you very much, Dr. Kwame Asah Asante, who's Senior Political Science Lecturer at the University of Ghana, and also to you, Franklin Kudjo, who's President of Imani Africa. Thank you very much for making time to join us this evening on Upfront on the Joy News channel. My name is Winston Amoah. Catch you tomorrow on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. Have a lovely evening.